start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I live by the old code of the second floor!
Why look for a scientific explanation when you can put blind trust in an invisible Sky Daddy?
Sky Daddy all the way.
You want your crappy stick car? Turn up full volume, why don't you?
Aubrey, weird, I can't even get through my couch!
Alright, Al. Well, this has been a long time coming, man. Welcome to the Second Floor Experience podcast.
It's an honor, guys. I'm really excited.
So, dude, when would we have met you? Because I know we met you at Freedom Church, but it's got to be like 2.5 years, something like that.
Yeah, it
2
was
years?
July 2023. That's when I would have met you guys. Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's 2 years, bro.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Time goes
Oh
fast.
my
We're having fun, you know.
man.
Sure does.
Wow. And so you've been here for 2 years. When did you guys move down? I mean, or where did y'all move from?
So we came originally from Killeen. Me and my family were out there for a few years because I had just moved down there, accepted a firefighting job at Copper's Cove for a little bit of time.
You did that.
Did that for a spell. Then I was at my church in Temple for a little bit, and then as we decided to move down here closer to Austin because we just bought property in Bertram.
Mm-hmm.
As the house got built there, we're like, okay, it's time to make our way more to Central Texas. Started to look online for websites for a new church because I was like, all right, can't go to Bethel anymore and stuff. So looking online and stuff and just asking the Lord to lead me and stuff. And I just felt the Lord just give me like a real like, hey, check this church out with when I got to Freedom. So I'm like, okay, I gotta see what's going on here. And when I came to Freedom Church, I just felt the presence of God and got a chance to meet a lot of awesome people there. I'm like, no, this is home. This is where I want to be for a while and stuff. And met some awesome people. You know, Michael Sutherland, shout out to my boy, Sam, Nathan, Benja. I met a lot of cool people here and decided, you know, this I'm gonna be here for a while.
Wow. So what were you doing at Copper's Cove as a firefighter?
So I was a firefighter EMTB basic for a few months. Did that and I loved the job. The job was amazing. I just realized kind of when I got into the job, a few things like I wasn't as equipped as I needed to be from the academy, and my time there wasn't the best as far as like just training and stuff and like, you know, finding out afterwards it wasn't super rookie friendly.
Gotcha.
You know, so made it a little bit more of a harder process than it needed to be. But God did something through that, you know, because when I went to become a firefighter, I was just trying to, in a sense, like avoid my calling in a lot of ways, because I was like, let me go do the adult thing, get my career first before I even think of like ministry and stuff, and learned real quickly, real fast how if the things you get into aren't your calling, you find out quickly whether you're equipped for it or not, because it just truly churns you out. And like if you're not well equipped spiritually, physically, mentally, you figure out quickly whether it's for you or for not. So figured out it wasn't for me, and I got out of that and decided to go back to Bible college and finish my credentialing and going back to what God called me to do.
When did you know that you were called into ministry?
Man.
Or specifically to be a pastor?
Yeah, so that would have been when I was 13 years old. Amazing story there. So I grew up in the church my whole life. Like, grandparent was a pastor, parents taught marriage class, and like I grew up in the church in ministry. And you know, when I was a kid, the platform was like so alluring. You know, like I think I'm gonna do that one day. And I think, you know, as a kid, not realizing what I was really speaking over myself. And when I got to, I'll say like 7th or 8th grade, I really started asking these real questions about my faith. Like, God, why am I here? Like, why was I created in this world? And started taking like these quote unquote spiritual career choices out of the hat and trying to figure out what sticked. You know, I'm gonna be a worship pastor. I'm not really the most musically gifted person in the world. You know, am I gonna be an evangelist? You know, yeah, I don't like to travel that much like that. You know, I'm being a missionary. I'm like, I like my ACP, at here at home and stuff. And then when I finally got to asking the Lord, hey, am I going to be a pastor? I felt like that was the first time where I got got quiet, not because of like I said something wrong. Like you finally hit the right answer. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, Lord, I'm gonna need some confirmation behind this because this is not something you just walk into.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was very close to my youth pastor at the time, Pastor Kellen Moore, amazing man of God, and just following him and just being a plucky young student with a pastor and just trying to follow wherever he did, like whatever he wanted to do, and I just wanted to be near him and stuff. And I remember us randomly hanging out one time, and he randomly, but I give God credit for this. He's like, hey, have I ever taught you how to write a sermon before? I'm like, no. So it goes in this full detail soliloquy of breaking down what that looks like. I'm like, he doesn't know that God had put in my heart about this and stuff. And then that same Wednesday night when he was preaching a sermon and stuff, like almost like, I don't even know if he remembers this moment. Like in between his message, he just looks at me and stuff's like, so you want to be a pastor, huh? And then he kind of goes back to his message. And again, completely like shocked of like, I'm like, yeah, must have been told and stuff. And then kind of like the final nail in the head for me where like I really believed in my heart, like, this is what God called me to do, was when I went to my mom, you know, because one thing you guys understand is like a good mom, especially a Mexican mom, she ain't gonna lie to you for nothing. Like she will tell you the truth, you know, whether it hurts you or not and stuff. So I went to her before with all these different versions of my calling. You know, I think we'll be a worship pastor, a missionary, like this and that. And my mom shot them all down. Like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like you have a terrible voice, you know, like this and that. But when I finally told her, like, I think the Lord's called me to be a pastor, she was gonna shoot me down. She told me her plan was to just utterly shoot me down. But she said she felt the Lord had told her, like, don't you dare tell my son what he's not to become. So when she had told me that, like, this was maybe months afterwards, I'm like, okay, Lord, this is what you want me to do. So I was very certain at 13 years old that God had called me into ministry, specifically youth ministry. So beyond blessed for that.
Yeah, 13, dude, that's pretty young to be so sure.
Wow. And so, which church was that at? Was that in California?
Yeah, that was at Lancaster First Assembly of God.
Okay.
Now City Church. Yeah, that was basically my home church. I grew up as far as my youth tenure when I was a student and stuff. And getting a funny story there. Before we got to that church, I was super adamant not leaving my home church that I grew up as a kid, just because I didn't like change. I didn't like these things and stuff. But my dad was really trying to help grow me into like independence and the spirit, but as well as with him, he was telling me like, Mijo, we got to leave. Like the Lord told us we got to leave. And like, this is for your benefit. This is for your growth. This won't hurt you and stuff. I'm like, no. I don't know anything in Lancaster. Like what's going on? Like, I can't leave where I'm at. Like I'm comfortable here and stuff. And then once we got to Lancaster, I realized like everything that my dad had told me was true. Like everything of just growth and learning from the Holy Spirit and like really finding out my foundational principles of a relationship with God came from Lancaster. And that came from taking that step, which again, throughout time, the Lord is just revealing more and more of how, you know, I think myself, but as humans, we don't like change and stuff. So when the echo came to, hey, you're going to Texas, I'm like, well, what's in Texas? I don't know anyone in Texas like that. I like my place here. Like I'm just finding my stride with my other youth pastor. We're going to start this internship. It's going to be dope. I was like, no, I want you in Texas. You know, your calling is going to be solidified there. Like you and your wife will have a ministry out there and stuff. So, all right, God, let's go and stuff. And just time and time again, God has been faithful of how every time he's called me to move, it's always been at the right time.
And then when was it that you moved from California to Texas?
2017.
2017. Okay. And then for what reason again?
It was just a God calling. Like God had called our family out of California to Texas since 2015. And every year we try to make it out there, something came up, whether my dad got in the hospital with gallstones, him actually getting laid off from work, like just a bunch of things kind of came in the way between us actually trying to go. And then when we finally made it to Texas, like our plan was to go to Houston originally. as we were making our way to Houston, Hurricane Harvey hits. So at that time, we're like, okay, well, where are we gonna go now and stuff? So we find this small town in Dallas, Texas, like outside of Dallas, called Forney, Texas, and we decided to live out there and stuff just because of the church we found, Mustang Creek Community Church. I love that church and it has a very special place in my heart because of it being the first one that came out of Texas, and it was a small church. Smaller for the community size, but great community, great pastors, everything I could have hoped for in this transitional season. And it was just like, that was our beacon point to where we would live and stuff. So we lived close, like we were like 5 minutes away from the church and stuff. Like my work was close. Like that was a pretty cool point in my life where everything was like within reach as far as my commute is concerned. And it was just everything I could have asked for in this transitional season.
So that was when y'all had like just moved to Texas, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. And so y'all had been trying to move that over here like for a while.
Oh, for sure. Like once me and my sister graduated from California, or graduated in California, we were kind of like, I think we all were just like, hey, we're kind of done with California at this point and stuff. Like we've done everything we wanted to do. We've done all these trips. Like it's time for us to have a legit life move now, you know, just because if we didn't, it would have been the same as what my parents did when they were younger and stuff. And just, we all collectively decided, not only within God's move, but as well as our life, like, hey, it's time for us to move. Like, we need to do something big for our lives.
And so it was your whole family too?
My immediate. So it was myself, my parents, my little sister. We made our way out there and stuff originally, and along the way, we had our 3 nephews come along aside us as well.
Okay, yeah. Dang.
Wow.
So has anyone like you feel called to be a pastor? Has anyone else like previously in your family, like before you, been in ministry in that sense? Or
yeah. So my grandfather was a pastor, still is. My father had got the calling to be a pastor right around the same time I did, which I think he was getting the call even when I was a kid. Like even when I was a child, I would like perceive these things from him and call these things out of him, and he would admit to himself, like a lot of people in his life would call these things out of him, but it was the fear of the unknown, not realizing how that would work in a working man's life. Like how does that look like in this aspects and stuff. So I'm proud to say that he got his credentials last year or a year or so ago.
No way.
So he's a licensed minister now. He is working as a prayer coordinator / like men's leader at his church now in Liberty Hill, and he's doing great things out there.
Wow. Dude, that's so crazy that you guys are both getting your credentials like a year apart.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I was gonna say, like, so at 13 you knew you were gonna be a pastor, and then now what, in about a month or so?
Yeah.
I think a month from
today.
Yeah. You're actually getting your credentials.
Yes.
So what has that journey been like?
Wow. I mean, to encapsulate what 13 years has been, it's just, I would just say anything short but incredible. And incredible is not only gloss over like the hard parts of this journey, because it's been very, faith stretching, very just time consuming, very just an opportunity for me to really plug in and like understand what this was all about. Because the eagerness and hunger for ministry was always there, and like it kind of went before me as far as the wisdom of it all and stuff. Like at 18 years old, I was, dude, let's be honest, I was cocky enough to like, hey, give me the church now, give me the ministry, like I'm ready to run everything now. And obviously with God's always like, not yet, young man, like you got a lot of growing to do. And through these years of just knocking out a lot of like selfish desires, disciplines I didn't have previously, addictions I dealt with and stuff, like realizing up until this moment now where I'm at, like I realize I'm now in a place that I am ready to receive, but it's also coming to a place of just humbleness, like, man, I am still not even ready to know what's going to come before me and stuff. So I am just very fortunate and glad that it's happening now in this place in my life versus when I was younger, just because I knew I wouldn't have been able to handle the calling then, because I just wasn't mature in life, spiritually mature. I just wasn't ready. So now I feel confident to where I can put my feet on the ground. Like, no, I feel like I'm ready now.
What would you say to someone who's like maybe, 18 years old, feeling that call, but like really maybe in a place of like desolation where they're just like, man, I don't know, like where's God? Like I've got this great calling, but I don't see things moving. Because I know you were there, bro. Like when you first got here, it was like, dude, you were like, I feel like this is what God's plans for me, but I wake up every day and I go to a job that I don't really want to work, and it's like I gotta drive 45 minutes there for like taking care of our nephews, and they're freaking annoying. I love them, but like, you just had all these things that were just like, hey God, like where are you? And so what would you say to someone who's feeling that same way or walking that same path?
I would say, in the most lovingly patient way I can, stop fighting and wait on the Lord. Because I think a lot of times, and I can even admit it myself, grumbling and complaining your way through a season, even though it doesn't appear to be what you had imagined, makes it more painful than it needs to be. I'm mindful of the story of, what happened with the Israelites in Exodus. Like their distance of journey as far as where they were at to the promised land was only a month. It wasn't that far. But it took them 40 years because of how much of just complaining and backbiting, ungrateful, and just really in a echo chamber of their own expectations of what they expected God to do for them. So when it didn't turn out to be exactly that way for them, they turned against themselves, they turned against their leader Moses, and really made it a more painful process than it needed to be. And to those who are, again, in those moments like, oh God, where are you? So like that, like I would say, like press into the faith that you grew up with, and don't let this moment of silence discourage you. Understand like God has done that to his greatest of prophets. Heck, he did it to his son when it was at Calvary, when Jesus was there dying for our sins actively. Jesus truly understood what it meant to be alone apart from God in that moment, saying, God, why have you forsaken me? And then we go to the story of Job, where like he had that trials where his family was taken away, his property was taken away. And then you've seen throughout the chapters, like the biggest thing that was bothering him was the silence from God. It was wrapping around his mind. But although God is silent, does not mean he's not moving. Oftentimes I think we are so busy looking for God on the outside without actually internalizing him, seeking him in prayer. Like we're asking the outside question, God, where are you? Instead of having an actual personal conversation, like God, like why can I hear you? Why can I see you? So I think if we would just take a moment to really personalize the journey we're in at this moment, and really ask the Lord, what do you want me to learn right now? Is there something I can learn and ascertain from this situation that I can use to benefit me in the future, not just use it as a moment where that I'm like brush it off my shoulders, like, oh man, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here now. Where it's like, no, like there's a reason why God has you on this path. Like some people, get picked up in ministry early. Some people, it takes a long time for them to get into ministry, and either man is not disqualified in regards to like why was one over the other, but it could simply just be a journey with the man itself, the woman itself, of like, hey, God had not got some personal, disciplines out of you, knuckleheadedness out of you to where now he can use you, versus if not, like you would have used this as an opportunity to platform yourself, like, oh, look where I'm at, boys, like I got out of high school, look, I got a youth ministry, like boom, and would have taken out the full purpose of what God called you to do.
Gosh, yeah. Those are some really good points. I mean, because even like for me, I was in a similar state a couple years ago when I was like starting to try and start a business. Actually, that was when I just met you.
Yep.
I was like almost. I was ready to start this turbo business. I literally remember talking to you about this.
Pluckers.
And no, it was before that.
Yeah.
It was what was that Mediterranean place? It's like
I forgot.
The kebab
shop.
Kebab shop. Yeah,
That's where it was.
Yeah, holy crap. Yeah, and I really thought I was ready to start my business then. Like I was so sure, and then like God just kind of shut that door. And then looking back, like now, I'm so glad that like he shut that door, and I started my business when I did, because that whole last year, like I learned so much in between that time. So yeah, sometimes it's just like you said, like you just gotta, it just takes humility, and sometimes you want to like, it's like, God, like how come you promised me this? How come I'm not seeing the results yet? But like you said, just like pausing, like, okay, God, what are you trying to help me learn here?
Right.
You know? Yeah. So, I mean, going forward, what's the move? Like, what after you get your credentials? What's the plan ahead?
Well, right now, once I get my credentials next month, the plan is right now to kind of hold on to them and just, again, seek the Lord out in regards to what my next transition is. You know, before I came to Freedom, I asked the Lord, you know, the next church I want to be at, I want to be there for a while. Just because, you know, after I left my church in Lancaster, me and my family collectively moved every 3.5, 4 years, you know, which wasn't, you know, I didn't mind it, you know, when we were following the Lord, we were following what the direction was going for our lives. But I was asking the Lord somewhere like, I want to like plant roots and be there for a while and stuff. And just serve there, and just like, if something opens up, great. If you call me to another church, that's awesome, you know. So as far as my plans are concerned, I'm comfortable where I'm at Freedom Church and stuff, and just seeing what the Lord has for me, you know, whether, you know, being there and, you know, possibly stepping into a role at that church, maybe somewhere else. Really just, I'm at a point now where it's like, now that I've got it, I'm cool with now going the snail pace of whatever the Lord decides, you know, because I was definitely the jackrabbit of trying to get here so quickly, to where now, as I've gotten older, maybe a little more mature, a little more wise now, it's like, okay, Lord, whatever you want to do now in these next few months, these next few steps, let's go.
Dang.
So what was the process like to get your credentials?
Yeah. So, as you guys know, like, we go to the Freedom Church like that. It's a part of the Assemblies of God network. And the way that this process works is that they really want you to kind of go through Bible college, biblical training and stuff, and have like a outline of your transcripts to see, hey, do you know what you're talking about and stuff. So had to take some academic biblical tests on that. And then afterwards, you're brought before a council of pastors, advisors who choose each pastors, you know, throughout the year, and decide whether, you know, they're green light or not. And then through that process, you're telling your testimony, explaining your calling, explaining your foundational knowledge of the gospel and of these biblical principles that you would be teaching, you know, when you are actually a pastor. And that process was, again, about a 2-year, I say 2-year gap. So I went through all this in about 2023, as far as the interview, testing, like all that, like flying colors and stuff. But the reason being of the 2-year gap, as far as like why it didn't happen with my father when he got his credential, was, and this goes with along the line of the rules behind it all and stuff. So right before I was going to go before the board for my interview, I kind of had I relapsed into a previous addiction of my life and stuff, and was battling it for my whole life and stuff, from like 11 years old on to like 22, 23 years of my life. And realizing as I got closer to ministry, I'm like, I knew I had to nip this in the bud, just because I couldn't be a broken vessel, a weakened messenger to actually be used by God to the fullest of my ability. So when going to the board about that and stuff, they had asked me to take a 2-year hiatus of an opportunity, like, hey, you got to like really flesh this out, like really make sure this is not a part of your life anymore. Go through biblical counseling and just have an opportunity to where it's just you and the Lord, of like really fleshing out a lot of these things in your life. And you know, it's funny how you brought up the point of the gentleman who was in that season, like, Lord, like, I just want to get some exploit. Well, that's all where I was, like, come July of 2023. Like, I was like, I don't want to go through this. Like, I am just like not trying to go through this season of the wilderness. I'm not trying to like deal with all this. Like, Lord, like, I knocked it over. I'm good. Let me just go forward. And I just remember the Lord pressing into my heart, like, you know, like trying to find any like little ambiguity of like, you know, biblical. Do I have any ground? God, Lord's like, no, don't fight it. Don't. You got to walk this out. And it's funny how when the Lord gives you a specific message, he will remind you that same message throughout your life, whether it's through devotions, through sermons, pastor speaking, your friends. And every time when I was reading hearing that same message, was right in my devotion of Proverbs. Happy is the man who accepts correction. Happy is the man who takes discipline in stride. And hearing this over and over again, I'm like, okay, God, I get it. I got to take this on the chin. I have to really understand what's going on here and stuff. So having an opportunity to just be cleansed from it and stuff, and really just, you know, being able to say, you know, my, you know, 2 feet being 2 years, you know, pornography free. You know, I think it's one of the things where everyone, when they say addiction, it's a sad thing, but they're afraid of saying it because of looking like, oh my gosh. But no, it was 2 years of porn free, which I give glory to God, because for like 13, 14 years, I tried to white knuckle it and, you know, scripture it out, and I couldn't. You know, it wasn't going to go away without God and actual counseling, actual getting some help with my part of acknowledging my error and like I need help. You know,
dude, that's amazing, man.
It was amazing.
I can't believe it's been 2 years. That's so nuts. But I bet you appreciate it that much more now.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. I'm happy to say how better my mind is and better just my way I view life now. You know, not to say temptation isn't there. Like that would be probably first in my life, you know, for that sakes, but just realizing that it was no longer a dependency and no longer like I needed this to breathe, you know, because for a while it got to that point where like I couldn't have a bad day without, you know, needing that as like air, or I couldn't go a certain amount of weeks without like indulging in that, just because of how I ingrained it with my life. You know, like I treated that as my God. You know, like when I was upset, I would go to it. When I was sad, I would go to it. When I was lonely, I would go to it. Like I went to it as much, if not more, than actually God himself. You know, I worship God Sunday, Wednesdays hard, but every other day, man, I was deep involved in that and stuff. So now being able to have an understanding of how strong and wicked that idol was in my life, to where now I can understand, like, Lord, the worship I was giving that, you deserved. Everything I went to that for, you deserved. My prayer, my pain, everything I went to this for, it needed to go to you. And realizing that proper place in my life of God being elevated, and obviously that sin being cut out of my life, like it was something that was needed 100%, not just before I went to ministry, but before my life. You know, I couldn't be a husband in the future with having that. I couldn't be a father, you know, doing that. Like I couldn't even be a good man doing that and stuff, just because that was actively eating at me while I was still pouring out of my life in ministry. So having a twofold of pouring out and being eaten up by sin left me very shallow and empty as a man for a long time.
I bet you can really empathize with people
Yeah.
even more so now,
Absolutely.
because you like been through a deep struggle. That, you know, that kind of thing really, what Satan meant for evil, God's using it for good by equipping you
Yeah.
to be a more understanding pastor.
Yeah, and it's something I give, again, God incredible credit for, because it's one of those things where it's like we wish that part of our life was never like attached, you know, like because of how much, you know, pretty quick shame that comes with it. But if we were all being honest as far as the state of the church, like this is an epidemic the whole church is dealing with. Like we're looking at studies where it's like 70% of the church is involved with it, you know, and the numbers are only declining as we're getting more access to it now. So now this is a known issue that everyone knows, everyone goes through, but we're hearing less and less testimonies about it because of the shame that comes with it. Like the idea of like when someone admits like, hey, I was the guy who watched porn like 4 or 5 times a day. You're like, whoa, what is wrong with you? Without realizing that they also go through themselves and stuff. So the more we're vocal about the scars we have in our lives, I think a greater healing and a greater revival could come out of it, because people would realize that they are not different, that the same healing that God brought in one man can bring for you. The same breakthrough that God brought for one woman can bring for you, sister. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not proud of the scar being there, but I'm glad that God would use my ashes for beauty for his kingdom, and an opportunity for people to be set free.
Okay, so what was the job that you worked when you first got here?
So when I just moved here to Bertram, my life in Round Rock, I was in a check-in person at a clinic, you know, working with insurance and stuff. And I'd gotten that job because of my previous job at that point was being a patient care tech, which I loved the job. The job was fun. It was just, I think I was just getting burned out by just the overall repetitiveness of the physical labor of it all, just like being like on my feet consistently. And I was just needing like a mental break from it all and stuff. So kind of taking a position where like wasn't expecting a lot to do a lot of these things, and just kind of a mundane hit of a job. Like I really appreciated it, benefited from it at the time, but definitely about a few months in, I realized, oh, this wasn't also for me. Like just it's it's one of those things where it's like, if you love it, you love it. If not, like it's something that really, again, as I said before, if it's not your calling, you figure out quickly whether you're equipped to do this or not. So it was a good job that I had for a while and stuff, but I definitely was, seeking for more. And again, how it paired with the time of me accepting the discipline and really waiting as God was doing a restorative work in my heart, now being a mundane, slow job of just interacting with people all the time and just realizing that God had done just an inner work in my heart of just being more loving towards people and understanding their struggle and their frustration, because jobs like that, and I would say even like, people who work in fast food, like they are seeing people at their best or at their worst.
Yeah.
Never in between. So finding the way to absorb all of that with also maintaining your faith, maintaining your professionalism, was very difficult. I learned it quickly. Like I found myself wanting to go back and forth with people who wanted to argue with me. And, leaving the workplace, driving on the way home, just upset of how angry I responded or how dismissive I was, and just realizing that my heart, although hungry for ministry, I wasn't even ready for the people that I wanted in the ministry for, because if I can't handle people who are, are dealing with legitimate health issues and legitimate like worries of life to where they would respond in a normal sense, angry and frustrated. If I responded in that same way, how could I be able to be equipping a student who's having suicidal ideations? How can I be equipped to help deal with someone who's gender confused and stuff? Like, would I respond the exact same way? No. Well, I said that, but I'm also responding pretty rudely and dismissive to people who are in that same situation. So God had done a real understanding and just a work and like perspective of realizing that the ministry isn't just what you do on the platform, it's how you interact with the actual people and the sheep in your fold, So it was something I didn't realize I was going to get a ministry lesson in, but I definitely got a people ethics lesson of like how I really needed to change and correct the way I spoke, the way I treated people's problems, and really, to the best of my ability, responded as professional, as courteous, as graceful as I could. That was a new prayer of mine whenever I got out of my work, my truck, and I was like, Lord, help me be more graceful today than I was yesterday. Help me have more patience for them than I did yesterday, because I know yesterday I didn't do well. So today, Lord, help me be as patient, as loving as I can be, so I can still be an effective witness for the gospel. Because again, I can say words that promote the gospel, but my actions do not meet that. I'm only making myself a bigger hypocrite. So I'm asking the Lord, help me be more grateful. Help me be more loving towards these patients,
Dang, dude.
And so how long ago was it that you got your new job?
That would have been in May of this year, May of 2025. So I was in that job for about 2 years.
Dang.
Yeah.
And so is this like a different job or a promotion or kind of both maybe?
A little bit. So this new job I'm doing now, I went from working with insurance, so I'm working with patients again, but on a grander scale now. I'm a dialysis tech. So helping patients set up for dialysis, their treatments, and helping them get hooked up to the machines, running all their fluids throughout the machine, making sure all the toxins are leaving, electrolytes are getting rebalanced. And this was definitely a godsend as well. Just because as I was leaving this job, this insurance job, I was asking the Lord for a different opportunity, just because I needed to provide for myself, my future family. And I had done an overtime shift in another clinic in South Austin, and speaking to a nurse down there, and telling my issues, like, oh yeah, I need another job for more hours and stuff. And he had mentioned, like, hey, have you ever thought about going to dialysis? I'm like, I've never had that thought in my life. He's like, well, I think you should apply, and like it'd be a pretty great opportunity for you and your future family, just because he said he came from that. It was great for when he was in this season, and he told me to, like, hey, if I could, I would go back. So like really put some effort to like thinking about this. Okay. So that day I saw a position opening, like it was just one position opening, like in the whole website of the internal job site and stuff. So the next day I applied for it, like asking the Lord, if your hands in this, like I need this to move pretty quickly so I can start the process of getting into the job and possibly making some overtime, just because of my future expenses and everything. And I get an email within that same day or the next day asking to do a phone screen interview. The following day, I speak to a recruiter asking like, hey, can we set up an interview next week? Following week, have the interview. And then the next day, I got the job. So all happened within a week.
Dang, dude.
And mind you, I was looking for a different job probably about 4 months after I got into this insurance job, respectfully. Like once I was in there, okay, I don't want to really do this anymore. And just like I met like roadblock after roadblock, you know, misinterview this and like rescheduling that. Like it was truly a difficult try to get out of this job, you know, like it's one of those seasons where it's like you get so quickly into a job and thinking it'll happen. No, like I couldn't get out what I wanted to. Like I even like entertained the idea of being at working in HVAC for a while and interviewing with a bunch of companies like that, and never got anything back. And to where God opened up a door here where asking the Lord, I need this opportunity for this job. All happens within the week, which again, I give glory to God, because as people would know, that's not a normal thing. Even you know, in the workplace we live in now, like, that just doesn't happen within a week. You get hired, you know. Yeah. So especially me coming from a place where I had no experience in this field, like I came from a clerical background, but never worked for dialysis, never worked with like actually injecting people with needles. Like I never did that. It's where you know, God had shown favor to myself in front of my employers, where now I do this, and now it's like. Dude. All glory to God.
You inject people with needles, dude?
Well, now like not as they inject them now, like setting them up as far as their dialysis run is going, because you know, without getting super nerdy about the whole process and stuff, like basically when you're on dialysis, you're on something called end stage renal disease, saying that your kidneys no longer function to the capacity that it would if they were both actually functioning properly. So now that they both don't function properly, you need assistance, whether it's an actual kidney transplant or different modes or operations of dialysis, because you can do it through your arm, you know, through your stomach. Like there's different ways of actually filtering your kidneys out. So what a person has to do is get something called an AV fistula, an anterior. I'm gonna mess this up. I've been here for about anterior fibril. Something like
dude, you could have said whatever you wanted and I would have believed you.
No, right. You know, like the Chuck E. Cheese thing. But basically getting their vein and artery married together, like basically soldered and together, to where once we put the needles into their arms, we're basically from the outside acting as their kidneys. So cleaning their blood through the machine and being returned back into the patient's body at a healthier rate, healthier blood, and removing all the toxins that would come normally from the actual kidney.
So does it kind of work like a plasma machine, like when you donate plasma? Or
sorta.
Okay.
It's more in depth, and it's definitely a longer treatment and stuff. So a dialysis treatment can go from 3.5 hours to 4 hours, and sometimes I've seen them even 4.5 hours. It's a real just body draining of a process. Like it's again, we're basically being their kidneys on the outside, and a lot of more fluid is being run through a patient than normally through an actual human, you know. So a lot of patients will come what we call like fluid overload, where like they're gonna not be able to balance their fluids properly, so they'll have higher blood pressures, you know, and other like sustaining symptoms, to where like they'll need the dialysis, to where when they leave, a little bit more lethargic, a little more tired, and just because again we basically ran all the fluids from them out of their body, and they'll do this about 3 to 4 times a week, depending on the severity of their case. Dang. So it's definitely an intensive kind of treatment and stuff. So like you're seeing people at their I want to say lowest, but probably a really struggling part of their health.
I'm sure. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
So speaking of providing for a future family, why don't you tell us the story of this special someone? How did you meet her? What's been going on?
Dude, this has been a story I've been wanting to tell ever since it happened, you know, just because this is something that's been in the works, and as far as prayers concerned, ever since I was a child, like ever since like 14, 15 years old, you know, like I knew pretty young what I wanted to be as far as growing up. So I want to be a youth pastor one day, and I knew I wanted to have a family and kids. Like I wanted all these things, and knowing that made me very purposeful then of like asking the Lord, like, Lord, I want a wife who loves you, who wants to have a family that loves you, and all these things and stuff. And like, you know, they say the term of like, you know, in the Christian cliche culture, like you date to marry. Well, I was ready at that point, like at 15 or 16 years old. Like I was ready in my mind, like when I was wanting to date, like I wasn't trying to do a thing where it was like, not doing this just to take pictures or to have these like, cutesy dates for nothing. Like, no, I was looking for a wife then, so praying and asking the Lord and talking to these, women throughout my life. It was a very tumultuous, hard seasons of my life. I say seasons because it went for a while, and going up and down with it, and pursuing women that were not really interested in me, not really interested in God, and just it became more and more of an issue in regards to like I was trying to figure out how long this process would take, so similar to like my calling, like I expected like my early 20s, okay, I'm gonna get married, have these kids, and it's gonna go great, awesome. 22, 23, 24, 25, and just every year that knocked on, the less and less faith I had in myself, and even sometimes like with God in regards to this. So 2024 hits, and I'd been through years of just trying to pursue women biblically and trying to like court in this process, and I would get a bunch of no's, not really, you're a nice guy, and just never really got a clear answer. And because of that, it left me very confused as far as my potential like mating paralysis, because I just didn't know I didn't know if I was the issue or it wasn't the right fit, because I wasn't giving much answers in that way. Because I think we're living in a culture now, unfortunately, that social media and a lot of things you can hide by a veil of ambiguity. Mm-hmm. So it leaves people more confused as in regards to their take in life, because our parents were very, very straightforward, very cut. They're like, you knew what, they told you straight up what the reason was. And living behind a wall of just, I don't know, I'm a season of I need to be alone, and just these really weird, confusing, conflicting answers. You find out they say that one thing, and then 2 months later, they're in a relationship. Like, So yeah, just this weird, just
Christian
not
dating,
not right, and just not understanding what was going on and stuff, and just really, it put me in a really weird space with God, because I knew the Lord, was calling me to be married one day, have a family. Like my parents were seeing visions, people like I knew this was a theme that was around my circle. I just wasn't seeing it, and it was frustrating. It was like, like it got close one time to where and this is again another Christian cliche thing, but I have backed up as far as my father and other people in my life, where I thought like a few years ago in Dallas, like there's this one girl that I thought I was like for sure, like, oh yeah, like I've seen visions, the Lord is like give me a word, and like I was certain I was with my calling, I was certain about this. And when it didn't turn out the way it was, or she just flat out refused, I was more not upset at her, I was upset at God. Because in my mind, I was like, Lord, if this wasn't her, why did I feel like you led me here? Like, what was the purpose behind the season, And after that moment, I started to become more, not only just bitter, but just like afraid to ask God about this. Because it was like, I didn't want to be hurt again. I didn't want to go through this again. Mm-hmm. So when 2024 hit around, like I realized within my life, like I needed to do something. Like I couldn't just be bitter anymore, not do anything. Like nothing was changing. My bitterful prayers, as well as my fear of doing anything, I wasn't getting anywhere in life in regards to this area. So I was finally, asking the Lord and, through counsel of my friends and parents, okay, I need to get out there and I try to do this again and stuff. So got more on the online dating scene and stuff, talking to people, throughout the church and, some, success, not really. And finally had a legitimate, probably successful, like earliest dating relationship for about a month and a half. Met someone online and it was going great, and like I saw all the green flags of everything and stuff, not seeing anything that was concerning, because again, going so many years of barren, dry, of no success, to win a small taste, and I went full head over heels, planning the full on marriage, the kids and everything and stuff. And then when it ended and stuff, I was in a very hurtful place. I was like, God, why am I here again? Like now it became more of not just a fear of like, why did this happen? Like, is this going to be how my rest of my life is going to be? Because understandably so, gentlemen, like, Christian dating is very difficult in onset, just because you're dealing with the frailty of humanity and you're trying to find someone that aligns not only with your biblical views, but your moral views, and a lot of people can have one without the other.
Yeah.
So finding that was hard. On top of finding someone that wanted to be in ministry. Because there are a bunch of people that love the Lord and have great moral values, have nothing to do with ministry. They don't want it. Not because they don't trust God, and they understand the greater microscope of your life is under. So the fear of that and the weight of that, like, they just don't want that. And I respect it. Like, it's a heavy burden. Like, people, glamorize, the platform and all, and although it's great and mighty, like, it is not just that. Like, there's so much more that goes into the ministry itself, and a greater weight of responsibility. And, like, again, your life is different from other people. Like, there are things that God's going to ask you to do that your friends can do. God's like, I don't want you to do. I can't have you do that. Like, because we're set apart in that set role in that way, right? So finding someone that was equipped and wanted to walk with that journey with me was difficult. So again, after that situation happened, like, say last October, November-ish, I was going into December kind of like, throwing a shot in the dark in a few areas. I'm like, well, I don't think anything's going to really happen. I'm going to let 2025 be what it is. Just going on a bender as far as like getting super ripped, super shredded. Still in that process. Jiu-jitsu and all these fun things in my life that I'll just, come what may, but the small part of my heart, because, God hears those small prayers in our hearts even when we don't utter them. And I give God credit for that, because even when we don't vocalize them, the Lord takes detail of that. And when the whole thing of like everyone's asking, friends, what do you want for Christmas? Like, everyone's talking about these things. Some people said, I want headphones, or brand new car, like whatever, these like small things. And I was like, in my heart, whatever would happen and stuff, but in my heart, like I straight up asked the Lord multiple times, like, I would like a girlfriend for Christmas, like straight up, like I wanted to start the process of pursuing and courting for a wife, knowing that it would take some time. So in December, a brand new dating app comes out, like brand new. It's called Unplugged. It's still going on to this day. The reason that this app really kind of caught my eye was like, first of all, the price of it all. Don't know if you guys know, but dating in the online world, it's a very expensive endeavor. Most apps are like $35, $40 a month just to get in the door. Whoa. You're not talking about the chats that you got to pay for and like seeing who like swiped on you. Like, it's a real expensive thing. So
I don't know that.
Like going from that, right, to where like it was a brand new app, introductory member fee of like $12. I'm like, $12. Hey, I can get $12. Like $40? Like no. But $12, like, and signing up for it, I knew it was gonna be kind of clunky. It's a brand new app. Not a lot of people are on it. But again, my mind was just like, Lord, I'm gonna throw a Hail Mary in the air. We'll see what something lands. So again, it's basically like for like a month, it was basically like Facebook 2.0 of like, or actually like 1.0 of like super like introductory message chat rooms and stuff, man. It did its thing for a while and stuff, and tried to like, obviously there wasn't a lot of people in the Round Rock area because it's a brand new app. So messaging people from Virginia, Washington, and New York, California, and not really having my mindset of like if a long distance relationship was going to look like actually practical in my life. But again, I was just trying to throw a line in the water, let's see what happens, right? And then I'm going. Right. I'm about to reel this one in, and I'm seeing a lot more in regards to not only outside of my scope of Texas, but a lot of like outside of my country. I'm seeing a lot of people from Mexico, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, Chile, and like all these different countries and stuff. I remember having kind of an internal discussion with myself of like, would I even entertain something like this, just because of like there's a lot of risks that could be involved with it. There's a lot of like uncertainty. Like it's not just a long distance relationship of like you in the same country. Like, you are in a different time zone, different cellular zone. Like, everything's completely different in this adventure if you decide to go on this. So again, giving kind of God the blueprint of it all, like, Lord, this is something that you want. I'm gonna make the pursuit forward, and I'll let you decide as far as how far this goes. Like, if this is of you, I want this to pursue forward. If not, I want you to cut it off before I even get any legs. Because ultimately, I don't want to be on the path that I'm not supposed to be on. So, and funny enough, like, the story of like myself and like dating someone outside my country, if I'm being honest, guys, like I wasn't really interested in that. just because I knew how much hardship and how much difficulty would come with it. You know, I wanted the easy, you know, install wife kind of thing of like easy, ready to go for me. I wanted that. Oh yeah, it's easy, but you know, God had always kind of put something in my heart in regards to Mexico, and in regards to just having someone of not only my culture, but someone that just came from that area. I'm like, all right, Lord, like this kind of happened a few years ago. I'm here where I'm at now. We'll see what happens. So started messaging to people from outside the country, got a few messages and stuff like that. And I come across this profile of this beautiful woman. And what struck me about this profile, different from the other ones, was how humble even her profile was. You know, it was mixed with Spanish and English, you know, her English being Spanish, but as well as I think trying to attract people, just anyone, just to kind of like talk about her background and stuff. She was like, you know, hey, you know, my name is, you know, Martha, this and that. I live in Mexico. I love Jesus with all my heart, and I'm hoping to find someone who's like that. I remember just seeing her profile and stuff. I'm like, you know, let's see what happens. So it was like 3:45 at my like midday kind of thing and stuff. And mind you, I was messaging a few people in between me and Martha. So I messaged her just like that, leave a pretty like, you know, I guess here's my tips for all the Christian men, like that, like the my game in a way. Like I would do this cheesy pickup line, but it was a tool in a way of like I need to figure out like whether they even knew anything about the Bible or not. So it was a cheesy pickup line. It was like, hey, I was looking in the book of Numbers and I realized that yours wasn't in it. Again, everyone's heard that pickup line, but everyone and their parents had heard it. But
hey, it works.
But I used it to then parlay it to the next question, like, hey, what's your favorite book in the Bible? And you would be surprised that there were so many people with Christian in their bio when I asked them that question, like, oh, I don't read the Bible. Shoot, I'm like, but it's in your profile, and I don't, you know. So again, cheesy. I want to get a cheap laugh, but also like I'm trying to fish you. Hey, do you know like about the faith? Do you know what's going on and stuff? And a few other women like, you know, bit and like were responding, okay, great, so like that. And then Martha responded, great. Oh yeah, this is my favorite book in the Bible, and this and that. I'm like, okay, great. You know, we have a foundational bridge to build on. Let's go forward and stuff. And you know, we went back and forth about talking about our favorite music and all these different things and stuff, and like small stuff. And then remember in my heart, you know, just, you know, like, hey, you know, I'm gonna sign out for the night, so like that. You know, hey, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Oh yeah, sure. Went from that app to where we were talking on Instagram, you know, talking for a little bit and stuff. And then we finally decided, you know, in my mind, I'm like, look, I'd rather go forward in a quicker manner of like figuring out whether this is of God and if this is going to work versus playing the long game of the whole, you know, like vibe of it all. Like, look, I'm 26 years old. I don't have time to like, you know, vibe it out like kids do. Like, oh, let's see what's going on. Like, no. Like, I need to figure out, are you looking to marriage? Are you looking to have this? If not, then let me not waste your time and not waste my time in just entertaining something that has no real merit or value for. So, you know, we had a phone call and stuff, and you know, it was a very shy phone call on both our ends. You know, it was very, the signal wasn't strong. Like I realized, you know, calling, you know, Mexico, you get these different dial tones, you know, I'm like, you know, like, oh. And, you know, Martha's English at the time wasn't super strong and stuff like that, but it was good enough to where we had a conversation, you know. We had basically about a 45-minute conversation in the span of like, or a 20-minute conversation in the span of almost 45 minutes to an hour. Just because of what did you say? You know, and I think because she's a very soft-spoken woman in nature anyway, but apart also her being nervous as well. So it was that, not really understanding what she was saying, you know, going back and forth, you know, again. But I just noticed just in the phone call, like how not only sweet she was, but just how humble she was. And we ended the phone call before we ended it and stuff like, hey, Martha, I had a great opportunity speaking with you. I hope we get to talk again soon. And she had stopped me right there. She's like, hey, Albert, before we hang up, I need to let you know something. Okay, you know, shoot. She's like, if you ever get in this moment in regards to talking, and you decide that you don't want to ever like talk to me again or like pursue this, just let me know. Because I'd been in a few talking situations where I'd ask a guy to do this and they would just stop talking to me and just ghost me. And it was at that moment where I realized again how precious of a heart she had. But second, someone felt a pain similar to mine. And I thought that wasn't a thing. Like I thought no one knows true isolation, loneliness, castawayness than me. Like no one knows this. Like everyone is desirable in everyone's eyes except myself. And to hear that come from her, which again, like on the outside, like guys, like to me, like she's like the total package in regards to having just not just a beautiful, appearance, but a beautiful heart and someone sold out for God and just everything that I was asking for and needing from God and then some. So I knew then, like, okay, I want to really key on this one and stuff. So I like ended all my other chats with the women. Hey, I found someone to go like really hard for and stuff, and it's great, So they're, oh, yeah,
wait, hold on. You let the other prospects know you're about to go hard in the paint.
Oh yeah. Hard in the paint, but I just told like, hey, I found someone I really want to pursue. Praying that God brings you to your spouse, but like I want to walk in on this one because in my mind, I'm like, look, if I knew this was going to be real, I'm like, I don't want to again waste my time with any of these women.
It's a generational lock-in.
Dude, it was, man. It was. So after that, we started talking pretty heavily and like seriously, like every day, and just talking about like important things, like real things, like, hey, where do you see yourself in a few years from now? Like, what's your idea of a family? And like, we had like legit real conversations in the talking phase of it all and stuff. So leads to our first FaceTime for what, maybe 2 hours, pretty long. And then like, we just kept talking, for a very heavily for a few days. And then after 8 or 9 days, like us going back and forth, I felt confident. Like, I think I want to date this woman. Like, I like, again, like in my mind, like, I don't want to waste time and just, again, saying I'm trying to figure out things I already know now. I know I can see a future in this woman. I know, she and I are aligned on a lot of things, life, relationally, spiritually. I'm like, let me just, again, let's go intentional with this and stuff. And, we decided, to be in a relationship after 8 days of like legitimate, consistent talking. And, being in my first relationship online ever was crazy. And mind you guys, we became official, like in our eyes, December 28th. Now, let me rewrite a little bit. If you guys remember what I said before, when I asked the Lord what I wanted for Christmas, I told everyone else, I wanted, whatever small thing. But I asked the Lord, I wanted a girlfriend for Christmas. And maybe call it delayed shipping and stuff like that. But the Lord answered my prayer then.
More like overseas shipping.
Overseas shipping, right? Had to pay them early tariffs, right? So coming into that, like I was just, it came to now, I was walking into 2025 very gloom and just, it'll be what it is. It just had such an expectant, excited attitude and opportunity that was before him. Like, I'm excited for this next season. And, as they say, God had led the rest at that point. We had like legitimate conversations about, again, continuing about our life. Like, what, are you intimidated by ministry? Are you intimidated by like myself going into this? Like, do you understand what this will entail for myself and for both of us? Like, this is not just something that I'm going to be doing, but you're going to be a part of as well. I was like, no, I get it. Like, my uncles are in ministry, my grandparents are in ministry. Like, I know what this looks like. And when we got to the end of like January, because I just bought the tickets to go see her in Mexico City in February of this year. She told me that how she had basically got a word from a brother in Christ a year ago, how that the Lord was going to, bring her husband soon, and that her future husband was going to be a pastor, which in her mind, she was excited for, but also if you ask her, she was like, I don't really want to be with a pastor, just because she said like she saw the other side of ministry. She's like, how hard it is, how much of expectation there is, how much of like, turmoil you go through and stuff. And she's like, I wasn't really interested in that kind of phase and stuff. So, but as it turns out, the next few months and stuff, but just her praying, asking the Lord, whatever you would have for me. Her sister-in-law, Fanny, shout out, had been asking her and pushing her, like, hey, you need to really decide to like be serious about, looking for a spouse. Like, you've been waiting for too long. Like, you need to do something for yourself. Okay. So again, she has kind of the same attitude in December, like, I'm going to download this app. We'll see what happens. I'm not really expecting much out of this app. I'm just going to see what happens. And as the Lord united our fates together and put our paths aligned in that moment, when she told me that, it just gave me so much of greater assurance. And not only that, but reminded me a year ago in what January looked like in 2024. Because in 2024, the Lord had put in my heart how in 2025, God was going to give me both my credentials and my spouse the same year.
Wow.
Which, mind you, these were two of my biggest prayers of my life. Ever since 13, 14 years old, I was praying for these things. And for the Lord to tell me I'm going to give them both in the same year, I'd be lying if I told you I believed instantly. I'm like, that's crazy. No, you're not gonna answer both of my biggest
Both buzzer
needs
beaters, dude.
and in the same year. Like what? So figuring out how God had basically given us both prophetic words before each other a year before we actually met each other was just all the confirmation I needed of like, okay, Lord, this is real. Like this is everything that I've prayed for and stuff. And then when I finally met her in Mexico City a month later, when she brought her mom, I was just completely floored with who I saw. Like it wasn't just love at first sight, like, you know, as the movies glamorize, but it was like my heart finally found rest in the fact that I finally found someone that I was looking for my whole life. And like, it's funny enough, boys, and I don't know how to explain it other than saying it like this. When I got off the plane and I was, you know, going through like baggage claim, getting my stuff, money exchange and everything, my spirit felt that she was close, like positionally. And I've never felt that in regards to like a spiritual presence and awareness of like someone's close. Like, you know, you hear that through hyper spiritual circles, but I'm like, no, I felt it. Like she's close. Like, I felt it. And then, and after I found her, because again, I got lost in, you know, the airports like that, not in a whole different country and stuff. And I finally found her, like the distance where we were at, it was only separated by a glass door, but I just went the whole different, just long distance and stuff, right, and stuff. And just, it was separated by that door and stuff. And then finally seeing her, I was just, again, blown away. Just everything that I asked for and prayed for was found in Martha. And we just had the best, you know, I would say the best trip of my life. You know, we went on these amazing dates, you know, did all these things together. And just what excited me and just made me so grateful for this relationship, just the fact that she loves the Lord and just really old school and authentic in her own ways, is that how grateful of life she was appreciated for. Like, our first date officially on Valentine's Day was her first date she had ever been on.
Dang, dude.
Ever. And, you know, just seeing her eyes light up on just a simple, like, you know, like a dinner and like do these things. And like, you know, I was excited just being in front of her, but just seeing how like taken aback she was off a simple moment. It was just like, Lord G like appreciates the small things, like just like things like, you know, in our culture where it's like we almost take for granted, you know, we take for granted at dinner, we take for granted a moment because like, oh, we see it so often, but come across someone who doesn't get this opportunity a lot, like a dinner could be a life-changing experience.
That is one of the most slept on positive traits in a partner, is like the ability to find gratitude in the small things.
Yeah.
Dude, I could not agree more, bro. It's like when I first met Taylor, I was just like, oh wow, she like really appreciates the little things that I do. And like as a man, you're like, bro, I can't drop like all this money every time. Like, you feel that pressure of like, am I gonna marry this person and the rest of my life I'm just gonna spend like more and more and more and more money just to impress you? It's like, if you can be grateful as a partner, it's like, or a spouse, like it's just one of the most life-giving things to your relationship for both people.
Yeah.
But like very few people ever talk about that. It's like, oh honey, make sure you're grateful when you go out on your date tonight or whatever. It's like, you never really hear that a lot.
No.
But it meant so much to me to be like, wow, this girl like really appreciates not just the monetary things I'm doing, but like the other things too that she like can tell I put effort into.
Yeah.
And that's translated amazing into marriage too, because she's like continually grateful for doing the dishes or like the monotonous things of life. And I try to be the same too. And it's so funny that you like, I laugh at this whole story because it's so God, but it's also interesting to me in the practical sense that our, you know, and I think Zach and I've talked about this a lot, but like our generation really has a hard time.
Yeah.
Really has a hard time finding quality prospects.
Yeah.
And literally to the point where I have another friend, Zach Wilkie, who was on the podcast too, from Sagu, who just met a girl a few months ago. She was like here for like some kind of youth conference or camp or something. And she's from like the UK. And like he's been talking to her and things are like going super well. And I'm like, and he's, you know, potentially going to go through the same process you're going through. And I'm just like, man, that I've never had anyone that I've known do that until this year. It's been like 2 of my friends have done that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, bro, it's crazy. it's crazy because it's just like the reality is there's becoming less and less traditional values in America for our generation.
Yeah.
And it just makes it really difficult for Christian men, like genuinely Christian men, to find genuine Christian women who also, like you said, have like similar political and moral values and family values,
Right.
all wrapped up together. And you got to actually like the person.
Yeah.
That's kind of a tall order when you think about it.
Yes. I think we live in the problem is that you see a lot of the progressive Christianity wave that hit everyone's post circa like 2020 or 2005, where it became such an ideology of like you couldn't just be a Christian anymore. You had to be a Christian at something else. You had to be a Christian and an entrepreneur. You had to be a Christian and a philosopher. You had to be a Christian and a political analyst. Like you couldn't, it was no longer enough to be just who God made you to be. You had to wear another hat. And when that comes a part of your life, like it makes people very vain, very just expecting to see something that they're not going to see and expecting to find an image that they were never supposed to have. You know, I think a lot of times for Christian dating is concerned, you see a lot of people looking through each other instead of at each other. They're looking at people not only they meet for within 5 minutes, instead of looking at them where they're at now, they're like, well, what could they be in 5 years? And if I don't see what I would like in my life, I'm not going to waste the opportunity. Realizing that although God does that in our lives and speaks lovingly towards us, he died for us as we currently presently sit. Not as we currently presently sit, as we acknowledge and love him, as we currently presently sit when we had no desire to be with him. And if that is not a great model in regards to having a graceful attitude and mindset and perspective when it comes to dating, I don't know what is. You know, like if God didn't reject us at our worst and loved us at our worst and died for us at our worst, why are we tripping over small details like, oh, he's not 6 foot, or oh, she doesn't know how to cook, or oh, he doesn't have a bachelor's and like master's degree? Like we're tripping over small minor details when in previous generations that was never an issue. Like it wasn't an issue if you weren't as educated as the other person, because it was an understanding like, hey, do you love God? Do we love each other? Okay, let's make this work. You know, like my parents, you know, came from very humble beginnings. You know, they both came from terrible lifestyles. Like they both come from divorced households. And they both came from, you know, abuse on both ends. And they both decided, you know, what little they had, they came together. Like, listen, we're not going to divorce. We love the Lord and we're going to make this work. And that's all they had. It wasn't like my dad had this company, my mom was like, no, they both decided, hey, we're going to honor the Lord and we're going to do this and let's see what the Lord would have. And, you know, the reason why I'm at now is because of them. And they came from 2 humble beginnings, you know? So you're seeing this wave because people are looking through each other, not to each other. And that is something that unfortunately comes from a season of just whether it's failed relationship or failed relationship, they get that proper perspective, or like you said before, they actually take an opportunity and look for an actual spouse, an actual opportunity of proper values, and then they might be surprised and might leave it outside their zip code, you know, and that's where the whole faith comes in of like,
I was
you know,
gonna say passport, bro.
Yeah.
But that faith is good too.
Hey man, you know, it's like, you know, if God was to lead you to someone who lives in a different country but believes in everything that you believe in and loves the idea and the calling that you have for yourself and the plans that you would go for, and she says yes, but the only hard part you have to deal with now is the communication of it all, the hours of it all, would you sign up for it? I think a lot of people, men and women, would say yes. But it's that initial beforehand. It's like, well, if they have the choice, choose convenience over anything. But now, you know, blessed with my story to be able to encourage people like, hey, like you might be in the boat where I'm in, where your spouse may not be in the country that you live in. And that might be a scary thing for some people to hear. Like, well, I always decide, like, you're right. Like, we have plans for ourselves, but biblically, you know, Bible says, you know, man makes his plan, the Lord directs his steps. Like, same ideology. Like, you may want to meet someone who is like, you know, 6'5", you know, rock abs, this and that. Like, got you know, a tycoon this, and your husband would be someone who is in Australia, has a small, you know, IT company, does well for himself, but loves the Lord and decides he wants to lead his family for you. That might be someone that God's calling you to do. And you're like, well, I don't know what that looks like. Like, well, this is where that faith and trusting comes in. Like, would you trust God with your future spouse? Would you trust God with someone that he's eventually going to, you know, in a ceremonial way, like give to you as far as help lead your family and stuff. And that's something that a lot of men and women have to answer that question. Are they willing to take that step of faith and like actually journey outside their comfort zone? It's not just outside their country, outside their comfort zone. Because it can simply just be something that's like, I actually want to be the missionary. I actually want to be the someone that dates across the country. Like, oh God, your husband might be that guy at Starbucks that gets the same coffee every single day. That might be the what God has for you. Are you cool with that, or are you looking for something greater than I have a plan for you for? Because it's not exactly that you would imagine. Mind you, Abraham came from wealth, yes, but all his other sons beforehand, just less and less. They weren't like his father. Like you were gonna date Isaac, you were gonna date Jacob, you were gonna date people who were tent makers, sheep herders. Like, is that the one you want to be with? And if God calls you to do it, you should do it. Like I think think of like a great prospect if you think about that. God just did so much more because of the faithfulness of his life. Think of David. David just watched sheep. 13 years old, that's all he did. Watch sheep. And God had so many amazing callings for his life of eventual kingship, of all these things. But imagine if you're a young woman and you see this young man talk all these big dreams, like
youngest of his family,
all these things, like, but you watch sheep. You say you're going to be a king, but you watch sheep. You say you're going to be a king, but all you do is bring cheese to your brothers who are actually fighting, these battles like that. Like, what are you? And to see what God had done in his life as a faithful follower of him, a man after God's own heart, God had given him the kingdom at that point. So when he pulled up into his hometown, like, wait, is this the same guy that was herding sheep? He's now king of all. Oh, yeah. It just shows you that, again, and he said it in scripture, man looks on the outside. I look on the inside. And that's what separated David apart from not only his brothers, but the men of his generation. So again, to just encourage these people who are dating, like, decide to be a man and a woman that wants to live apart from this generation. Like, don't try to conform to this ideology that you have to be, like, as a woman, you have to be someone who has to be loose with their sexuality to attract a man. That is not someone you want to be with. That's not someone you want to spend the rest of your life with. And for a man, you don't try to make someone that you're not and change your personality to so many different ways to attract a woman that is attracted to something that you're trying to attract. That's not you. Be the person God called you to be to the utmost ability. And in the due season and the end time when you are both ready to receive, God would bring you together. So again, going back to kind of the same alliteration and the discussion of the calling, don't try to rush this and don't try to make someone to something that they're not. I tell people all the time, the two things in life you don't want to get wrong is your calling and your spouse, because you have both those things for the rest of your life. It's not something that you can easily change out of like a pair of shoes. Like, this is something that once you sign up for, that's it. And even so, is like, and biblically, if you found someone that was unequally yoked, someone that was in the faith, that didn't give you right to divorce him, because God has said at the end of the day, I don't like divorce. So it's very important to realize that who God puts you with is for an important reason, not just for your calling, for your life, but for your overall mental health and peace of it all,
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. I love, it's been really cool for me to kind of watch you last 2 years and see what you've gone through just in the 2 years.
Yeah.
And see like how much you were longing for it, and like you could just see the drive, the will, the desire. And then right now it really seems like you're like surrendered. You're like living a surrendered life.
Yeah.
Like, okay, God. And then he brought them to you in the midst of that surrender. And so it's been really cool for me to see as your friend. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, are you done? Or,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't want to interrupt.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
I was just going to ask, because you had said previously that with previous relationships that there were moments where you felt like they were the one and that you were like absolutely sure, like you received a word from God, all that, right? And then it didn't work out. So like, how did you mentally like rebound from that? Like, how did you come back from being so sure about something that like God is I guess like declaring this over your life or like giving this word or whatever, and then it not work out, and then you having to pivot? Like, what was that like?
Again, I would love to tell you I had such the greatest biblical response to it and stuff. You know, it's one of those moments like, oh, Lord, I receive, and then turned it around and it happened. No, I went through a lot of years of just bitterness and a lot of just dragging my feet in regards to not only just my purpose, but just asking God about this. You know, because going through a situation, realizing that what had happened to me was rejection from man, I took it as a rejection from God. Because in my mind, it was like, well, God led me to a moment where he could have easily intervened and stopped it from ever even coming to fruition. But him knowingly and graciously leading me into this moment that would eventually put me to Martha, I was just not appreciative of that. I was like, I don't like this. I'm upset. I'm hurt. I don't think I can even ask you about this again just because I don't want to be rejected again. Not just from man. I don't want to be rejected by you, God. You know, like it stung a lot. And what was frustrating in that whole seasons and stuff was dealing with the dichotomy of the bitterness of my lack of fruit I was seeing in this promise, yet getting spoken over consistently and over that your wife is coming, your family's coming, I see your son, I see your daughter, all these things my father professed over me and meant towards my life. And just having this weird, like I'm being told this, but I don't see it, you know, like really having this weird, again, flip perspective, like, Lord, I don't see it, but I'm trying to have faith for something I don't see. So it took years of just, you know, dragging my feet until, again, I would say last December, like it came from a really contrite heart, like, Lord, I don't know how long I could deal with this pain. I think people need to get over themselves in regards to having just this, having this strong attitude in regards to having towards the Lord, thinking that it comes from like boldness, it comes from declaration, it comes from, you know, all these great moments in our life, the relationship with God, but like, I think people forget like a broken, contrite heart before the Lord is such a great place you want to be in your life that leaves little to no pride to be in the prayer, such a humility and humbleness that comes from that moment where I think God allows those situations to happen to where it could truly be a God answered prayer versus a God answered man led prayer. It's because a lot of times we want Lord to answer us while we're high and stuff. So, you know, we wouldn't say at the moment, but later on, you know, we're having our fancy dinners, our suits on. Like, oh yeah, I planned this moment in my life, and look, I made it happen and stuff. Gives opportunity for us to take credit for something God had originally done in our lives. So I think God in my life allowed me to get so low, so disheartened, so discouraged by such a situation in regards to my future foundation of a spouse. I wasn't really expecting anything. I was just, God, if this is how my life's going to be, I guess I got to be okay with it. Knowing painfully, regretfully, I hated every second of it. But put me right in the position I needed to be to now I have Martha. And I tell her all the time, you know, like, you know, in our talks, like, you were worth every tear I shed. You were worth every broken heart I went through. You were worth every season. Dude, now that I look at you and stand before you as someone who would be my future spouse, my future ministry partner, my future wife, my future mother to my children, like everything that brought me to this moment, I met Martha, it was worth it. And I know it's something that we as guys don't want to go through, you know, consider, you know, every rejection like a gut punch. I know one's going to sign up for 50 of them to know 51 you're going to get your wife. Like, oh, it's gonna, like, we don't really want that. Yeah. But being on the other side of the perspective of it all, it's like, you know, being on that side of now that I'm close to my, you know, final relationship with her, I'm like, it was worth it. Every second of it. Yeah. So I would say whether you come humbly or not, a humble, contrite heart that's filled with humility and not pride, I think helps you get out of your season of bitterness and pride towards the Lord.
Well said.
Speaking of humility, how is this engine swap project going?
Dude, so that is something that I've been working for a very long time. So those of you who don't know, car, you know, gearheads in the world, I got a beautiful Chevy Tahoe that I've been working to restore for a very long time, and basically gutted it ever since I got it. And again, funny enough to loop it back to God, because again, I has to, right? The nickname of my vehicle is JJ, which the reason why I named it that was because before I got this truck, I've always wanted a Tahoe. Before I got this Tahoe though, I had been in a very terrible car accident with me and my father. Like, our vehicle flipped. Like, we could have easily died that day.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah, terrible accident in 2022. It was absolutely awful.
Dang,
And yeah, terrible accident. Like we flipped and stuff, and again, giving the glory to God. When we flipped, and you can ask my dad this as well, we felt the Holy Spirit rush into the vehicle like I felt that worship services before. So when that happened, when we were flipping, like I felt the Lord put on my heart, like, you're gonna roll with it, like you're gonna be fine. Not knowing, you're rolling, your head, snap back a few times, like, oh, okay, I'm fine, right? But remember, like after that happened, like I just finished restoring that vehicle. I finished knocking out all the problems. It was literally in pristine condition. It was beautifully done. Wrecked it after like 2 weeks after that. So
Pain.
definitely feeling like the worst person in the world, almost killing his own father. All these different things, and just like asking God, Lord, I need another vehicle now. Like I am completely wheelless. Like I'm relying on my sister. Like what's going on, right? So the Lord just put in my heart to trust him that he would provide a vehicle for me. Like, okay. So just did a bunch of overtime. Like I worked an unhealthy amount of hours. Like I had done 6 12-hour shifts in a row for 3 weeks in a row.
What?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So
How many hours is that a week?
what, 6 times 12, 72?
72?
So 72 times 3. I don't know the math. Anyway, I was driving every day for like 21 days in a row, just driving back and forth like that. And completely exhausted, completely drained, and just, I can't deal with this like that. Like, again, grinding like, God, like, is this how it would be like just working for a vehicle and stuff? And I find this vehicle just randomly and stuff, because I would check on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever, like that. I find this Tahoe for sale, for $550.
What?
Which, if you know anything about vehicles, that doesn't happen unless it's completely a junker. On top of being a Tahoe, which a 3rd-gen Tahoe, it could run you pretty expensive, like $3 or $4 grand, like easy, even with problems, because they're very valuable vehicles. So we found it, and it was in it was like Cedar Park. We were close. Okay, let's go check it out and find this vehicles like that. And talked the guy down, went back and forth because they had issues with it and stuff. But the bones were good. Everything was good with it, and got the vehicle for about $525. And I remember when we were towing the vehicle back, because it was a bad transmission. When we were towing the vehicle back and stuff, the Lord had begun again speaking to me. He told me how, had I just trusted him with just a regular 40-hour week to week, I had enough in a regular check than all my overtime hours. So I didn't need to do it. And God reminded me of, like, you try to do this by yourself. All this worth, if you just trusted me, I brought it to you like this. I told the Lord, Lord, whatever vehicle you bring me, I'm going to name it Jehovah Jireh, because you provided this vehicle completely. And on top of that, of like replacing that transmission, again, that was like $300, $400. Didn't have that money, even with the overtime. I was reminded, and I was sent a check, or reminded of my retirement funds I had at an old job in Dallas. Years ago, I had not touched this thing in years. I forgot all about it. It's like that. But it reminded me right at that right moment of, I had like $3,800 of uncollected money that I had not touched in years. So just again, forgetting about it. But it came right at the right time when I needed it and stuff. So I used that money to restore the transmission and basically rebuild the engine from the ground up to where now I was having a running vehicle, because basically God had answered it and made it happen. So that on top of the engine, the Lord also provided for my brother in Christ at Freedom Church. I don't want to say his name, because I want the Lord to bless him because of his faithful obedience who he did in my life, and like I want the Lord to bless him truly. And him basically buying my engine that I have now. So everything that's been touched in this vehicle has God's fingerprints in, truly. So me and my dad have been rebuilding this engine for about 4 months now. Bought a bunch of parts for it and stuff. We're gonna do a mild stage 1 cam on it, Truck Norris cam in the engine. Got these beautiful headers for it and stuff. And it's, when it's all said and done, boy, when the engine is fully restored into my Tahoe, it will run like it's never ran before, and it'll be powerful, which I love. Because all this, electrical EV stuff, that's for the birds. Like, maybe, resourceful on that, but like, it can't beat a legit truck. Like, you hear that exhaust, like, you hear, like, that's a recognizable feeling as a man. You hear that thing, ooh,
I'm with you on that, dude.
Get you excited in the morning.
I prefer the
Nah,
electrical vehicle.
I want people to hear me blocks away and stuff. I want them to know I'm coming and stuff. So, But it's been an awesome journey to build with my dad. You know, it's been an awesome opportunity to have that Bob
Oh,
Upset
yeah, you
moment.
can't
of
beat that, dude.
No, you can't. Like anyone can buy a crate engine and slap it in and just like, oh yeah, I have a powerful engine. But having the opportunity to build an engine with your father, or have these back and forth, not just with mechanical stuff, but life lessons, got spiritual lessons, biblical lessons. Like it's all folded into this process where when it's finally said and done, yeah, I'm glad it'll be, you know, like, oh, I finally have it. But really, again, taking an opportunity to enjoy the perspective and the moments of like, what got me here? Like, man, I got this engine because I built it with my dad, you know? So this was something not a lot of men can say and stuff. So I am very thankful. Father, thank you for helping me build this engine. You know, we smashed our thumbs, lost a few parts in the process of it all, but it's been such an awesome journey to where now when it's finally said and done, it won't be something that I get a chance to enjoy because it's my vehicle, but I get a chance for him to enjoy as well because he had a hand in this. So
Yeah. And dude, I used to, like, when my dad would ask me to come on and help him with the truck growing up, it would kill me. But then, like, in high school, I got a truck for like $500. It had the power steering pump that was broken. And it was an old truck. It had like 230,000 miles when I got it. And me and my dad, like, it took a lot of work every now and then to just keep it going. And like, as painful as it was, like, some of those jobs, like, looking back now, it's like, dang, like, what I would do to have that moment again. Just, you can't beat those experiences.
no.
And you're right, like, there are a lot of people, like, a lot of guys nowadays who don't have that experience.
No.
And it's sad.
No, it's heartbreaking to see that because, you know, it goes back to strained father-son relationship as well as, you know, when we get older guys, I think we sometimes forget, like, we still have our parents in our lives and, like, truly treasuring the time that we have with them and stuff. It's like, look, like, the commandment, you know, honor thy father, thy mother, wasn't meant for us to be up until we're 18. Like, that's a lifelong thing. So even when we're older, like, we just got to remind ourselves, hey, we gotta call mom and pops every once in a while. Like, we got to, like, go do something with them and stuff because,
Yeah, for sure.
one, it was normal back in the day to be multiple generations deep in a household. Like, it was normal. Like, it was not an issue at all. Now it's like we're having issues even inviting our parents to Thanksgiving because it's been weird, you know? So it's like, again, we got to get over this weird awkwardness that we place on ourselves and just reach out and honor them and have these moments like, hey, can we, you know, I'm trying to make this turkey for Thanksgiving for my family. I can't get it in the fryer. Can you help me? Like, yeah, sure, son. We can come on down and just have that moment of realizing not only just passing down generational knowledge and like wealth, but also having a rekindling of what it was like to be a son and a daughter again. Because again, when you find those moments, you realize that can never, you know, you can't buy that. Like, you can't, I don't care how big your 401k is and all, you know, whatever vehicles you drive, like, those are only temporary methods of life we have, but the real memories of life that's given to us and like blessings that God gives us and families are found in those, you know, like, as big and impactful as Acts was, as far as like the church of the explosion of the gospel and the Holy Spirit. Like, I love how it says that in Acts 2, like, you know, a very important part of the ministry. It's like, and they broke bread together and they had meals. Like, that's an important part of our lives, guys. Like, so we can't lose that, not only as future men of our household, as husbands and fathers, but we have to also show our kids what it looks like to be a good son. Because you got a lot of good parents that are great authoritative people, but aren't good children themselves because they think, well, my purpose in life is to get grown up and out in the wild by myself and do these things, but forget, like, they have parents, they have families to go back to. So we got to do the same thing and, like, being that for our children and our, you know, people who watch us.
Yeah. Every kid's got to have that, or at least every son has got to have that holding the flashlight for your dad experience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That beautiful moments of hearing colorful words you never thought it would ever echo in your life. It's like, oh, you get it. It builds character. It builds character and awareness of, like, never to move that flashlight, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Man.
Did y'all ever see this? This is super random, kind of. But, like, there's a trend on Instagram over the last, like, couple years or so. Not as much anymore, I don't see, but, like, if these dudes working on the truck and they would have, like, the most absurd, like, random things, like, holding the truck up as, like, jack stands.
Yeah.
you ever see those?
I've seen people use
Dude, it was
actual.
so funny.
I've seen actual like jack stands. You use your vehicles underneath this like that, or like having like the smallest like kid holding like what?
Yeah. Well,
What?
yeah, they would like obviously they would have like something else holding the car, but they'd make the camera in a way to it'd be like a little like toy Superman just like holding the car up, or be like, or I don't know, or it'd be like a bunch of like random crap that looks
It's
just like totally not safe, you know?
Oh, of course not.
But yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, you haven't lived until you've been working under a vehicle with your fathers like that, and hear the smallest moment of a jack creak, and you're like, "Is this how we're gonna go? Is this just all the world's like that, and just going out, everything's fine? Okay, cool." But have that collective, just that hush of like, "Ooh, this might not end well." You know,
I might see the Lord
so definitely, you know, word to lies, please use proper safety and like, you know, don't jack on an incline, don't jack down, you know, like, you know, use proper tools, like, you know, if not, you're gonna wreck yourself or your, you know, bent rims and stuff that you spent $2,000 for. Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, dude. Gosh.
Well, Al, man, thanks so much for coming on, bro.
Dude, it's been an honor. Thank you guys.
After a long freaking day, tell everybody what time you woke up this morning.
Dude, so I got up at 2:30 in the morning and stuff. Because again, my new job at Dallas Tech, we start at 4:30 in the morning. So I got to be up at 2:30 in the morning just to have that internal debate of like, I don't want to go to work. I have to go to work. It was half an hour like that, and then somehow eat breakfast, drink coffee, and then on my way drive over. Got to give me a good RC Sprawl message in between, stuff like that, and then stay in that parking lot, getting up into the workplace from 4:30 to about 5:15ish, like that. 12 hours of just nonstop busy works like that, and having a small break in between and stuff, and coming here and again hanging with the boys and having an awesome opportunity to be on a podcast. So it's truly beautiful. Love it, but I'm not gonna lie. When I get home, I'm gonna crash.
Yeah, we gotta
hard.
get you to bed, dude.
I know,
Yes, sir.
you got a long drive too, and you got to get up early tomorrow again.
Absolutely.
So. Well, thanks so much for coming on. If you want to follow Al, which you should hit up Warrior of God 99 on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only person's Instagram handle I have memorized. 'Cause it's freaking sick.
I'm honored.
And anything else? Anything else I'm missing? Final words?
No, I'm just encouragement to everyone who hears this. I pray that this encouraged you and that the Lord has spoken a specific message to you, and just know that what was done in my life, I'm not special just in regards to your life. Like everything that God did in my life, as far as credentialing, his future ministry, future spouse, can exactly happen for you. Trust, wait the process, and let God do what he's got to do in your life.
And how can people be praying for you?
Oh man, a bunch of things. I would say the new job, the new season I'm in, you know, it's a great job. I love the opportunity that I'm with, the team that I'm with, but it's a very detailed oriented position. So I'm asking the Lord to just give me just a really receptive and rememberative mind when it comes to these specific jobs, the skills that I'm doing. Praying for myself and Martha. We are in the process of our fiance visa. So we are, I know we're waiting now from hearing back from our beautiful USA country to get approved. From there, it goes to Department of State, Embassy, and just asking the Lord to sustain us in this season. You know, it's been an amazing opportunity just to love each other and go through this together. But we're definitely asking the Lord to expedite these things and stuff so we can have an opportunity to enjoy each other while we're young and stuff. And then ultimately just this next season of life as far as ministry is concerned, you know, asking the Lord to lead me in the exact church place where he has me at, and just to not lose him in all of this.
Maybe it'd be an international church, dude.
I don't know.
Could be, dude.
Never
Sounds
know.
like God's equipping you for some Espanol.
Something for sure.
No, I know you said you want to kind of settle down here, though. Yeah, some roots.
For sure, but I've always wanted to also like preach in Spanish before as well, and like
really?
you know, yeah. So because it's part of my culture, you know, as well. So actually, my first
now you have AI, dude, so you don't have to.
I have my beautiful
That is true, yeah.
That helps me. My Spanish has gotten better and stuff. So I'm no longer Yo Taco Bell. You know, my Spanish like it's gotten better. It's gotten better. So I'm excited for the future, boys.
Yeah, we're excited for you, dude.
man. Can't wait for that destination wedding in
Absolutely.
in Tijuana or something.
Get that passport, boys. Get that passport.
I'm ready to go, bro. I got it all ready.
Dude.
I do not.
Start now.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Second Floor Experience podcast. Peace.
Boom.
I want to talk to you. Not now. Later. No, now.